Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, Delhi. Dr. Nidhi Chaudhary has an experience of over 14 years. She specializes in public relations, print journalism, development communication, writing for media, and corporate communication. An enthusiast of literature and practitioner of creative solutions, she has a knack for providing stimulus for people oriented communication with the professional age. She holds PhD in mass comm and has two master's degree in mass communication and English literature. PG diploma in print journalism and has graduated in English literature. Dr. Chaudhary has several professional courses like DOEACC O level, Women's Studies, Forensic Science, German Language, and Disaster Management, which adds to her wide exposure of knowledge. She has certification of many international courses to her credit. Dr. Nidhi has served in various capacities in prestigious organizations like All India Radio, Hindustan Times, and Goodwill Publishing House. She has published over many research papers in several journals of national and international repute and has presented many papers in national and international conferences and seminars. She is the Associate Editor of Main's Media Graph e-journal and has been bestowed with appreciation certificates and several awards from her present organizations as well as from her alma maters. She is the member of Public Relations Society of India. I would now request Dr. Nidhi Chaudhary to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Priyanka, for this humbled and extensive introduction. I wish everybody a very good afternoon and welcome you to this section of this two-day international conference. And this is my privilege and honor to today moderate this session here. And first, let me introduce Dr. Devjit Challa, who would be chairing the session today. And he is somebody whom I will say is a master of masters. So if we are listening to him today in any form would be a master class for each one of you, including myself. So welcome and good afternoon, sir. And let me just introduce you to the gathering here. Dr. Devjit Chanda is Associate Professor and heading the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication and Videography, Rabindra Bharati University, Kolkata presently. Sir has a wide experience and got his academic qualifications. He has PhD, Master in Journalism from University of Kolkata. He is graduated in English Literature from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. Alongside with his academic achievements, he has also achieved UGC NET, JRR set, and he is also a news reader with DD News Kolkata and has worked with Indian Information Services formerly. Sir has been part of numerous board of studies, including the prestigious universities across the country like Rabindra Bharati University, University of Kolkata, Vardhan University, Netaji Subhash Open University, West Bengal State University, Swami Vivekanand University, to name a few. He has been part of research PhD advisory committees in Jadavpur University. He is a prestigious member of Public Relations Council of India and Press Club of Kolkata. Along with this, sir has a wide experience in research and 4 PhDs has been awarded under his supervision as of now. And plus, he is also an editorial member of many internationally reputed journals. To name a few, International Journal of Communication, which is by the Society and Cultural Studies University of Rajshri, Bangladesh. Then he is also chief editor of Prabhu Kagaj, member and editor of Editorial Board Dubai, guest editors of Global Media Journal, member of Editorial Board of Education, Research and Analysis, which is an international interdisciplinary journal. And sir has while acclaimed research to his credit in uh, not only national but international journals. So it is our privilege and honor to have you today as our second chair, sir. I would like you to share some wisdom from your end and motivate our presenters today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. It was such a long introduction. I'm feeling very humbled. I want to thank Adamas University and the authorities who are organizing this international conference on media and communication. These kind of conferences always give us an opportunity to come together, and this is an opportunity where young scholars can present their papers, and we need to get the chance to see the new vistas, the new areas: communication, mass communication, public relations, corporate communication, advertising, film, the whole mosaic, the whole umbrella that comes under so many different areas under the mass communication broad discipline. And it is an area of study which is professional at the same time, and it has got its academic and research moorings also. It is also it's a dynamic subject. It is changing with the. It is very much linked to the environment, the society, the culture, the new areas and the new investors, and also today, more importantly, it is so much linked to technology with the synergy and the different subjects that are coming together. I am sure this particular session will be an engaging one, and our scholars, I am seeing there are about 6 or 7 scholars who will be presenting their papers, and varied subjects. Without much ado, it would be good that we start the session and listen to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Indeed, we look forward to having a very mutual learning from this session. Now, this is my privilege to introduce the session co-chair for the day, Miss Devani Mukherjee. I hope ma'am you are her in the meeting. Uh, she is somebody who's have, I would say, very dynamic interest and wide area of experience. Devani Mukherjee is a media educator, teacher, and teacher trainer, and have been sharing her knowledge to media aspirants and candidates over 2 decades. She has both masters in mass communication journalism and English from Kolkata University and Indira Gandhi Open University. She is a very keen learner and herself a very, a passionate teacher. Apart from getting associated as a teacher with some well-known colleges across Kolkata, she is also associated for the period of 2 years with Symbiosis Institute of Mass Communication, Pune. During her professional career, she has worked in several prestigious universities and colleges in various capacities as head of the department, deputy director, coordinator examination, national seminar coordinator, departmental admission nodal head. Ma'am has UGC net slate to her credit and has also done various professional courses, faculty development program, and she has attended many international and national conferences and presented her work, and also has 6 publications in journals of international repute to her credit. She is also a public relation professional associated with corporate communication and prestigious companies like Tata Iron and Steel Company Limited, where she has worked for over 5 years. And she has also had a wide experience in both education industry and corporate. And she has now grown and groomed herself to become a teacher trainer and traveled across Ranchi, Jharkhand, Jamshedpur, and has given training to many teachers with different schools and colleges. She is a very uh, avid reader herself and a very well-known writer of short stories. She loves to sing and also writes in various regional newspaper time to time. It is a privilege to have you here, ma'am. I hope we've been able to do justice to your great experience and wide knowledge. And welcome on board. I'd like you to share your words of wisdom with us. Uh, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You are.
Um, is Miss Mukherjee here in the meeting?
Yes.
No, sorry, I'm talking about the session co-chair, Miss Devabani Mukherjee. Is she here? Priyanka, can you see her?
I don't see her.
Sorry.
I'm not able to see her here.
Okay, okay. We'll coordinate with her. Priyanka, you coordinate with her. Well, maybe she's having some technical glitch. That's one part of her life, you know. So please coordinate with her. She might be trying to join
Okay,
soon.
okay, ma'am.
And sir, with your permission, with the permission of
Yeah,
chair, can we wait for 5 minutes for
please.
her? And then maybe with meanwhile,
Sure.
I'll
So if you want to wait for five
request all
minutes,
the presenters. Sorry,
okay. Okay,
yeah,
you can. No issues.
all right. Meanwhile, I'll request all the presenters to be ready with the presentation and papers, and we'll be giving you in total of 15 minutes of time, and you'll be given a reminder after 10 minutes. And please, because of the paucity of time, we request you to please stick to the time limit. And as per the advice of the session chair and co-chair, you might skip certain part of the presentation as and when the chair asks you. And we will take, sir, how do you want the questions to be taken at the end of the session or simultaneously when one presenter ends? Uh, Dr. Devjyoti, how would you like the questions from the audience regarding the presentation? Along with the each presenter or at the end of the session?
Actually, the
There are any
papers
questions.
are very different from one another.
All
Very
right.
different. So at the end of the session, it would be difficult to. We might forget
Yes.
what we want to ask. Six, because
Yes.
six or
Yes.
seven papers, and all the papers are very different from one another. So
True.
I
True.
think we will conclude each paper with the question and answer and finish it all together. That would be better.
True. 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 Dr. Sharmila is also here, so I'll welcome her. Thank you for having this wonderful conference and having us on board. Dr. Sharmila, we are waiting for Miss Debani Mukherjee to join. I think
She's
she's
facing
facing
some
some
network
technical glitch.
issues. She has just informed, ma'am. She will be joining
Okay.
soon. And I heartily welcome you and our session chair, Professor Dr. Debojyoti
Thank you so
Chandu, for
much.
this technical session. And thanks for accepting our invitation for joining International Conference of Media and Communication. Nidhi, ma'am, you just continue.
Should we start with the presentation?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, I think our first presenter, Miss Arunima Mukherjee is here. Ma'am, you can make a presentation, you can share the screen, and please stick to the timing. You will be given the time of 15 minutes in total. After 10 minutes, we will be giving you the reminder. And let me introduce you her paper's title. Her paper is very interesting title where she has utilized something which is very relevant in field of development, and her paper is titled Old Media in New Avatar: Understanding the Relevance of Amateur or Ham Radio in India. So Miss Mukherjee, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you
Is
ready
it
for the
visible, ma'am?
presentation? Yes, it's visible.
Ma'am, yeah, go
If
on.
it is visible, you can, yes, you are audible and your presentation is visible. You can start from the first slides. And over to you, and your 15 minutes starts now.
Good afternoon to my chairperson and co-chairperson and other panelists. I first like to thank Professor Sharmila Goyal Magam for encouraging me to present paper in this very important and timely seminar. The title of my paper is Old Radio with New Avatar, Understanding Relevance of Ham Radio in India. This title is modeled on the title of a very important book written by Professor Amresh Saxena sir to focus on the transition from AM to FM radio. I will now start sharing my the reference in my PPT. The background of my paper is that the first two amateur radio operators in India were from Kolkata, Sri Amurendra Chandragupta, 2JK, and Sri Mukul Bose, 2HQ, got their amateur radio operator's license in 1921. And the first two-way ham radio communication in the country was done in Kolkata. As 2021 marks the centenary year of ham radio operation in India, it is all the more intriguing to understand the role played by ham radio in the midst of booming media industry in the 21st century. In a world where iPhone enables internet searches from any location with a good cell signal, communicating with a radio may seem a bit old-fashioned, but a new generation of ham radio operators is keeping the tradition alive by combining decades-old radio techniques with modern technology. The research problem that this study highlights is the ways in which technology is used by ham operators, organization-wise or government-wise. The problem is who and how you uses new technology in ham operations in the digital era, whether it is individual ham or ham organizations or government encouragement to ham. In India, the problem lies in the fact that the national organizations like National Institute of Amateur Radio Bangalore or any other are creating not enough publicity about linking new technology with ham operation, like American Radio Relay League, who publishes their technological upgradation activities regularly in their annual handbook. So American Radio Relay League is a very famous ham organization of United States. In India, Government of India has established a dedicated department of Vigyan Prasar with a dedicated scientific officer, Mr. Sanjeev Barua, for amateur radio service. Rules and regulations under the Wireless Planning and Communication Wing, Ministry of Telecommunications. The goal of HAMS is in tune with new media goals to establish secured, uninterrupted communication in all time, even during disasters when all communication channels, including new media like internet, break down. At the global level, American Radio Relay League also trying to update and upgrade ham activities as reflect in their website and yearly annual handbook that is published as already I have mentioned about. The available literature reflect that new media have significantly redefined the reception and consumption of radio, with some preferring to use the term prod uses, according to Axel Bruns, to signify the shift from analog to digital transmission system, prod uses. This shift, as according to Gurevis put it, is evidence of an ecological reconfiguration and the recasting roles evolving media landscape. Ecological means the relationship consumer of media content that the interactive digital technologies have given rise to a collaborative radio production practices. Scholars like Zhu Xiaorong argues that the goal of changing spectrum allocation policy is to take advantage of the technological advantages in radios to make spectrums more efficient and flexible. According to Girish Kapoor, mentions that communication pattern during and after disaster is a vital component of response and recovery from disaster situation. The research gap identified is very little work on relevance of communication aspect of ham radio during disaster, emergency, and for general social work in India with special reference of West Bengal. My objective is explore the activities of ham organizations in India, especially in West Bengal, to note the issues, trends, and concerns of their acts. There are so many organizations in India, so I mentioned about their work. The work follows qualitative comparative analysis to compare and contrast between various ham organizations in India, like Indian Institution of Hams, Hyderabad, Delhi Amateur Radio Society, West Bengal Radio Club, etc. Following integrative method to review the existing body of literature, it is found that some important ideas like social entrepreneurship, community centrism, emergency communication, service delivery, and scientific temperament of citizen, crisis management, and linkage role of ham radio, demand for equity of airspace, spectrum allocation, networking of ham radio is reflected and can be used in the present research to understand the role of ham radio in Indian society. In tune of the main theme of the today's seminars, issues, trends, and concern in new media era in India, the main issues relating to ham radio communications are comparing to new media. Number one, solar power equipment. Number two, 16 billion IPv4 address. Number three, free access of many gigahertz of the same radio spectrum for the company pay billions. Options of frequency distribution is high than all India radio or any other mode of communication. And five, independent from terrestrial network. And the trends. The latest trend in ham world is the development of Echolink, a new communication channel specific to ham, which can be used to communicate among them when all other source of communication breaks down. Another trend is to integrate with the civic and police administration mechanism to help management missing person find out and also to provide health communication, like Gangasagar Mela during Amphan disaster. Number three, the trend is to organize fox hunts and to test the effectiveness of transmitter antenna to find out any specific items which is out of radar of the detective department, and to organize ham fests to create a community bonding among ham of specific organization. And finally, the concern, the most serious concerns from ham operators is to keep a right balance between the presentation aspect of new media, advertisement, marketing, and online trending, and the value aspect of new media, uninterrupted, quick, and any distance communication on the other, to remain engaged in research and development activities within their own country to serve larger community in times of need. Despite such concerns, it can be concluded that amateur radio or ham radio news appears every day in newspapers for their continuous social service based on their modern technical radio communication gadgets testify the amateur ham radio are indeed active and lively, maybe in a new form of higher technical communication level in our times. So it's the old media, but using new technology becoming more relevant, and now we can call it the new media. New media is the highest form of communication in the digital era we know, that is based on continuous upgradation of technology. But if internet connectivity is unavailable, then new media become functionless in times of natural calamity and disaster. But there is one radio communication platform known as ham radio, which is silently uses in new technology like solar power, antenna, 4G, 5G network, Echolink, as well as new media application. So, thank you all. Thank you for your patience hearing, and I look forward to comments and suggestions if any. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Miss Adama. That was a very extensive research. Do we have any questions from the audience? Not yet. So I, before asking the chair for his observations and questions, I think Miss Depani Mukherjee has joined us, right? Miss Depani Mukherjee, you're there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes. You're audible. Welcome, ma'am.
Well,
Welcome on board. I,
uh,
we know you're
uh,
facing certain technical glitches.
yeah, which was very relevant to this presentation because right now my area is running with a power cut. There is no, I was sitting on the laptop since 1:20. Now I don't have any internet connection because of the power cut, and I'm taking the help of my phone, which is a 5G phone, and definitely that ham radio concept has really helped me. So ham radio will work in the society if it is at all, if it is complacently implemented. So that is, and welcome all, and it's a very good afternoon to everyone.
Yeah. Welcome, ma'am. We had given your introduction and we couldn't see you in the meeting. So let me
I'm
briefly
sorry
give
for.
your introduction again.
Okay.
Devani Mukherjee has been a media educator and a teacher trainer for over a period of 2 decades now. She has double masters in mass communication journalism and English literature from Kolkata University and Indira Gandhi Open University. She has worked in various prestigious colleges and institutions across the country and also associated with Symbiosis Institute of Mass Communication, Pune, for 2 years. During her professional career, she has served in various capacities as head of the department, deputy director, coordinator, examination coordinator, mentor, national seminar coordinator, departmental admission nodal head. Dr. Depani Mukherjee has also UGC NET and SLATE to her credit. She has done various faculty development programs and has presented her papers and research in national and international conferences, and also has 6 research publications to her credit. She has been associated as a public relation professional with corporate communications department of various prestigious companies like Tata Iron and Steel Company. And she has also been a avid reader herself and a very avid writer, and she has penned several short stories and traveled across Ranchi, Jharkhand, Jamshedpur, and has been associated with training of teachers of different schools, communication colleges, and institutions. She is also contributing to the newspapers, regional newspapers, while writing articles of and enriching people with her own experience as a educationist herself and as a professional who has worked both in education industry and corporate companies. And she has also been a very well-known anchor of various programs in different languages and genres. It is our privilege to have you here, ma'am, as session co-chair today. Welcome
Thank you so much.
again.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to take observations and if any questions from the session chair, Dr. Devjyoti. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Arunama, it was an interesting presentation on ham radio. The most important aspect of this gadget of communication is that its availability under critical circumstances when other sources of communication are no more available. During your presentation, you talked about the different areas in which ham radio can be used. One of the areas you mentioned was social entrepreneurship. Can you elaborate on this a bit? How can ham radio be utilized for social entrepreneurship? What do you actually mean by that?
Sir, actually, I can't hear you properly. Maybe some technical glitch was happening. Your voice is cracked, sir.
You can hear me? Rest of you can hear me?
Sir,
Or is
please
it only
repeat.
for her?
So you're audible to me. You're audible to me.
Yeah,
Yes,
my
yes.
question was that while presenting your paper, you had mentioned the different areas in which ham radio can be utilized. One of the areas that you mentioned that is ham radio can be utilized for social entrepreneurship. Can you please elaborate on this a bit?
Sir, I would like to give an example, like in Gangasagar Mela or in Amphan. In Amphan, Sundarbon area, Kultoli block was devastated, sir. So no one is able to communicate with the administration because the mobile phone is
No,
also
that I
not
understand.
working.
That is a different area altogether. You had given different categories. One was it during times of crisis when all other channels of communication fail, ham radio can be social entrepreneurship is a very particular niche area which has nothing to do with crisis communication. Crisis communication is definitely one of the important areas. But what do you understand by social entrepreneurship? A very specific question.
Sir, I have mentioned social entrepreneurship.
Yes,
Social
yes.
entrepreneurship. Oh, sir, I need to say social entrepreneurship means that social responsibility. Because ham is a voluntary service, so there is no pecuniary interest behind them. And for being a ham operator, need to clear the examination and got a license. So still, they have some social responsibility. That's why they, without getting any money, getting any help from administration, they serve for society without any monetary interest. And for that also they have to clear the examination. Social entrepreneurship means I mean to social responsibility towards society by helping the communication service.
Another question is with regard to like a person who wants to open it for the first time or engage in this particular area. You talked about spectrum allocation. Who is the authority that you have to approach to start a ham radio?
Sir, if we see the spectrum allocations means the frequency limitations, there are so many frequency options for ham operators. They can communicate from India to Australia. They can communicate like Kalpana Chawla itself is a ham, and they can able to communicate from Earth to space station, from the house to space station. So they have a very high frequency distribution. But any other mode of radio like community radio or all India radio, government not permit to give the this spectrum.
10 kilometer only for community radio. As less as that. And you're talking about talking from the space to Earth. That is the. Thank you so much. I do not have any more questions, please.
Miss
Dr.
Depani
Chaudhary,
Mukherjee,
please.
No,
you
no,
have
I don't have any questions because her presentation was quite clear to me. I don't have any questions. Thank you, dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Mukherjee. It was a wonderful presentation. Now we carry on with the presentation. Next up is Dr. Bharti Barez, and her topic of the presentation is Community Communication, Gender Sensitization and Sustainable Development, a success story of Purnima Devi and Haldila Army in conservation of greater agent stock in Assam. Dr. Bharti, you have 15 minutes to present, and after a time, 10 minutes you'll be reminded. And also, let me remind the presentation while you're answering the questions or queries.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are. Please share your presentation if you have.
Connection में खाता बोलने के.
Dr. Bharti, you are audible and you're visible. Please share your
Bouncing the meeting. Hui. Am I audible?
You are audible, you are visible also, but share your presentation, share your screen, ma'am. Dr. Bharti, please share your screen.
Mobile.
Yeah, it is sharing, it has started. It will
Good
take little
afternoon.
time. Good afternoon.
Am I
And
audible?
yes, you are audible.
Yes, you're audible, ma'am. You're audible.
You are audible enough. You can start your presentation. Your time.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Can you hear us? Dr. Bharti, can you hear us? Dr. Bharti, we can hear you loud and clear. I think she's not able to.
Very good afternoon. Am I
Yes, please
audible?
continue. Start, please.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please start. We
Hello?
can hear you. Please start. Please begin your presentation. We can hear you.
Dr. Bharti,
Hello?
Dr. Bharti, can you hear us? Dr. Bharti, there is some technical glitch at your end. You are loud and clear to us. Dr. Bharti, if you can hear us, you can start the presentation.
I don't think so. She can hear us actually.
Hello?
Dr. Bharti, you are audible to us, but unfortunately, maybe you're not able to get the audio from our end. Dr. Bharti, can you see me? You're good to go. You were audible to us.
I think she can't hear.
Okay.
She can't hear us.
Okay.
One way.
Dr. Bharti, yeah. Dr. Bharti, let us wait. We'll go to next presentation. And meanwhile, you please rejoin. Try to rejoin, then we'll take up your presentation. Ms. Franca, please coordinate with Dr. Bharti and inform her that she can rejoin again.
Okay, ma'am, sure.
Franca, are you there? Franca Ghosh, am I audible?
Hello, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes,
Who is
ma'am, I will
this?
be coordinating with her.
Dr. Bharti, you can join back the meeting again. Meanwhile, we are moving to next presentation. The next is Kamplika Das, and the title of the presentation is Digital Literacy and Awareness about the Financial Frauds Among Women in Brahme Village of Ranchi District. You can start your presentation. You will get a time of total 15 minutes, and after 10 minutes, you will get a reminder. And make sure when you answer the queries or questions of the session chair and co-chair, please switch on your video. You can start your presentation, please.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
You're audible and your screen sharing is also visible to us. Please make it full screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please start. Start.
First, let me introduce myself, Kamulika Dash. I am PhD scholar, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Central University of Jharkhand, under the supervision of Professor Devrat Singh. One second, ma'am. Okay. Uh, Today, my topic is digital literacy and awareness about financial fraud among women in Brahme village of Ranchi district. Though I am from West Bengal, but today I would like to represent Jharkhand and the financial fraud and cybercrime situation in Jharkhand. First of all, I would like to say that Brahme is a village
in Mandar block near Ranchi district. It's almost 25 kilometers away from Ranchi district, and this village has a geographically this Brahmbe village has a very significant location because one central university, one management institution, and Carmel school, everything is there in this village, and this village is only 25 kilometers far away from Ranchi district. And as per the census data of 2011, 4,230 population. Brahmbe has a population of 4,230. And within this 2096 females are there, and the female literacy rate is 66.77%. So you can see that this Brahmbe village is a very important village that is near to
Miss Das, just please move your presentation. We can only see the first screen. Now, yes, it's visible. Please carry on.
Then my broad area is media literacy and cybercrime. So what is media literacy? We all know that how general people interpret the media, the advertisement media, the advertisement, the print media, and the television media. That is the basic definition of media literacy is that. At the National Conference of Media Literacy, sponsored by ASPN Institute in December 1992, it is the ability of citizens to access, analyze, and produce information for specific outcomes. Here in first introduction, I mentioned some data that is given by Internet and Mobile Association of India. Around 346 million Indians are engaged in online transaction, including e-commerce, digital payments, and so we can see that the vast emerging ground is in India, that is e-commerce side. And according to 2022 report of IAMIA, 692 million active internet user in India, including 351 million from rural India and 341 from urban India. The report estimates that 900 million internet users will be in India by 2025. So we can see that the emerging emerging users of internet is growing up in India. But if the user don't know the media message, that will be a alarming threat towards our society. It's because of that rapidly the fake news and so many that is cybercrime is growing up. So to literate the citizen is very important nowadays. My research is totally based on primary data, and I did a survey on 100 women in Brahmbe village. The objective of my research is to determine the level of financial e-transaction uses by women, and a second objective is to examine the degree of awareness about financial fraud. Here the first research question is, why do women use mobile phones, and what are the pattern of mobile use by women? How do women experience online money transaction services? Why some women do not use online money transaction services? Just because of that, my research is divided into two parts. One is user and another is non-user perspectives. The theoretical context or theoretical framework of my research is knowledge gap theory. Just because of that, in our society, those people have the access of mobile phone, they have the knowledge, but those don't have any kind of mobile phone or internet connection, they don't know about cyber fraud or anything else, but their bank account is connected with online media, online platform, and they receive so many messages, but they don't know, they unable to connect internet. So this kind of genre of people are very vulnerable section of our society. Next, the significance of this research. So first of all, I mention that Jharkhand, we all know the web series name, that is Jamtara. Jamtara is a very famous district in Jharkhand, and this district is becoming very famous for the cyber crime. So I just want to showcase the actual reality of Jharkhand, the actual what women, the condition of women in Jharkhand, and the digital divide, the actual digital divide condition, and nowadays our government is pushing towards digital India, but where when I go to this field visit, I saw that so many women don't know internet. Actually, they don't even use any kind of media. Online money transaction is far beyond dreams for that. So this topic is very significant for this context. So research design, a survey of 100 women in Brambe village of Ranchi district was conducted through a questionnaire. My question is question is divided into open-ended and close-ended question also. 16 close-ended question were there, and one open-ended question was there. Applying convenient sampling method to do the data collection, I started data collection from the Brambe Chowk, that is 2 kilometers far away from Central University of Jharkhand, and within this 100 women, 4 women are directly affected by the cyber fraud, and they shared their experience. Actually, most of the women don't know what is cyber fraud. They actually using the media. Some of the women using the mobile phone. Some of the women are using internet also, Facebook also. They bought so many dresses and so many things from online, but then they don't know what is cyber fraud. That is a very alarming threat towards the society. The study has conducted informal interviews also, and scheduled questionnaire. Okay, I just want to show you my data. One second, ma'am. Yeah. Okay, this is the demographic data of most of the women are from Muslim and Chinese and tribe background, and they are more or less literate. The illiterate people are 23 only. More of the people are have a primary education, secondary education also, and their basic occupation is mainly animal husbandry and agriculture. And their language, their mother language is mainly Dehati, Kuruk. You can say that Kuruk is 55%. Hindi, or most of the people know Hindi, but they are unable to read. Most of the women are unable to read Hindi. They are only comfortable in Kuruk language and Dehati, as well as Sadri also. So here demographic, my demographic question is also there. So many women don't have any mobile phone. They are using mobile phone of their others family members, but they don't have their own mobile phone. Maybe once in a life they use internet also, but maybe some of the women are using Facebook and Instagram also, but most of the people don't know what is cyber fraud. And most interesting section of my research is that is age group between 10 to 18. When I visited interior part of the village, I saw that so many young people are addicted towards the game. But very interestingly, they send money to unknown persons with
Miss Tas, 5 minutes are left.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. And another thing is that most of the people are aware about the Google Pay, Paytm, but Bhim is a government app. Only 34% people are only heard about Veeam apps, and only 3% people are using Veeam apps. So these are the very important section of my research. And another important section of my research is that my research is divided into two parts. One is user perspective and another is a non-user perspective. And here I mentioned 7 factors, that is awareness factors, earning money factors, social media influence factor, socio-economical background factor, geographical location factor, forced adaptation factors, and risk factor. And here I interviewed 4 women, those who are facing these cyber fraud issues and those who are aware about what is cyber fraud. 2 women under the age of 18 and 1 woman who is 55 years old, and another women who not directly facing cyber fraud, but her husband faced some issues in this matter, and another woman that her age is 55 years who directly face these cyber fraud issues. So this is all about my data collection and data analysis. And the conclusion and the limitation of this research is meant that I only choose 100 women, and 100 is not the representation of whole rural area or rural women. So this is a big limitation of my research, and obviously I only choose close-ended question, not open-ended question. That's the limitation of the time. So this is all about my presentation, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Das. I'll open the floor for session chairs query, and after that we can take up co-chairs queries. Meanwhile, if anybody else has a question, you can put here in the chat box.
Actually, there's not much to ask. Some of the issues that were discussed in this paper are known to us all. That we had talked about urban-rural divide. We know about rich-poor divide. We know about man-woman divide, and here now we have a digital divide. And since we are talking about rural women, and that also with not having phones themselves, our presenter said that many of the rural women whom she talked about, they do not possess their own mobile phones. And since it was purposive sampling, I think in this kind of research we need to have an element of interpersonal and group discussions in small groups to be able to gauge the problems these women are facing in their day-to-day interactions through the mass media. Bank fraud or digital fraud is also, it's not that. I would like to inform here that 3 of our university lady teachers got more than 5 lakh rupees frauded just 3 months ago from their State Bank of India account. So university teachers who are educated, the solve fraudsters often can fraud anyone. That is the thing. One of the important issues that we need to concentrate while doing research in this genre is how we are selecting the samples. Since it is purposive sampling, and since all the questions are close-ended questions, and therefore it always is a limitation in our area of research. If this can be avoided, I think the hypothesis that she has drawn before she presented the hypothesis, we can connect the hypothesis with our findings better. This is my observation. I do not have any question as such. Thank you.
I hope Ms. Das has taken down your valuable suggestions. Over to Ms. Mukherjee if she has any observations or questions.
Yep, basically, yeah, thank you, ma'am. I do agree with Dr. Devajyoti. I was also about to conclude in this way that basically we still lack that one word, literacy, across the rural belt, and this divide of rich and poor, the urban and rural, it is still there. one thing I only noticed in this presentation is that the topic which she's picked up, that cybercrime and the rural women are being affected by the cybercrime. This does not stand alone in the rural belt. It is also happening in the
Um,
Connection.
I think ma'am's screen
so that
has
the
Yeah.
entire amount gets pulled out. But this kind of education is still far fetched from these rural women. So this crime factor, the cyber crime, this fraudulent factor is not restricted to the rural section. It is also there in the urban part. So this is what I watched. And as she said that this is, and also Dr. Devajyoti said, purpose of sampling and this very close-end questions, I thought the limitations to work more about and only with 100 samplings, it is not restricted. So she can work much more on this by taking more number of samples and understanding the amount of literacy, what is happening in that part of Ranchi. And that is all about it. But she has done a good work, detailed work. Her effort is good. Thank you so much.
Actually, ma'am, I just want to say something. Ma'am, I already work on this matter. I already collected data from rural area also and urban as well as urban area also. So, but in this presentation, I just only focus on the rural women, ma'am. Just because of that, my PhD work is mainly based on cybercrime. So in this purpose,
Okay.
I collected data from urban area also, not only from the women, men also. Gender, I just ignored the gender bias just because of the cybercrime is not limited with the women. It's also a matter of
It's
men
across.
also.
It's
So in
across.
this,
So
yeah,
this
I
was
can.
this was just a stem from your tree, right? This was
Yes,
one little
yeah,
stem from the tree.
yeah, ma'am.
Good
Yeah.
presentation. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Das. Up next, we have Dr. Bharti. Are you there?
Yeah, ma'am. Am I audible now?
You are audible. You were audible earlier also. Are we audible to you?
Yeah. Now you are all
Okay.
audible.
Okay. I'll reintroduce her title of the presentation: Community Communication, Gender Sensitization and Sustainable Development, a success story of Purnima Devi and Hargila Army in the conservation of greater Aegean stock in Assam. Over to you, Dr. Bharti. You have your 15 minutes and your time starts now.
Okay, thank you, and very good afternoon to everyone. Um, this topic is basically on community communication, gender sensitization, and sustainable development, and how women can take a significant role in the conservation process of uh, animals or environment on the land, which is a goal of sustainable development. And this goal number 15 says that saving of life on land. Now, as we all know, community communication is the type of communication where we focuses on issues that originates, circulates, and resonates from the spheres of all civil society. It also seeks to advance research on the objectives, practices, and dynamics of community, alternative, and citizens' media, including issues of their localism, politics, socioeconomic, language, ethnicity, gender, environment, or any other interest in their community. Now, if we look at the environment and gender biasness, then we'll see that women was never a part until 1960s in environmental protection. And it was in mid 1960s that the women and environment relationship came into the discourse. It was in 1992, for the first time, the first preparatory meeting of the Rio Summit under UNEP. There, women's contribution to development process were included. Of course, prior to that, World Bank in 1991 declared that women play an essential role in the management of natural resources, including soil, water, forest, and energy, and often has a profound traditional and contemporary knowledge of natural world around them. But interestingly, it was an Indian origin, Vandana Shiva, who in 1975 in the Mexico City for the first conference on women introduced that women and environment has a correlation and women can take a lead part in protection of environment because women are more close to nature biologically, emotionally, culturally. Throughout history, if we look at, men have looked at nature as commodity, while women, according to the section of women activists, women tended to see the environment as a resource supporting their basic needs. And this is the sole message of sustainable development, that we should use the resources the amount we need without compromising the ability of our future generation. So in my presentation, I have tried to focus on how women can take the lead and can be a protector of nature and how she can mobilize the community for developmental purpose. Now, if we look at the context of my paper, it is about the greater adjacent stork, which is locally called as Hargila, the bone swallower. It is present in India and Cambodia, and it is an endangered species with only 1,200 birds that exist in the worldwide. It is available in the pockets of Assam and Bihar, and it is a tall species. It is a scavenger, and therefore the villagers where it is available in the Dodora village of Kamrup district, villagers considered this bird as filthy. But biologist Purnima Devi, she began to work on the conservation of this species. She created a team of women which was coined as Hargila Army. Now what they did, they collected the injured bird, they cared for them in the initial phases. Then they went to the owner of the villages where the Hargila Hargila did the nesting naturally. The people cut the trees because they considered the bird as very dirty, filthy, and therefore they cut the trees. Of course, when there is no tree, no birds will come. But to stop that secondary habitation, the secondary message was developed that stop the trees, cutting of the trees, and make rebuild the artificial nesting. And this more than 10,000 women created the Hargila Army, and they took the lead role in conservation of the Hargila. Now, if we look at the strategies Purnima Devi and their Hargila Army had taken for community communication and gender sensitization, these were, they have related the stories of the species, relatability and relevance. They have talked about emotional stories to the community. They had second characteristics was simplicity and repetition of their actions, their stories. Then they came to the third phase of action, where they have developed directing messages for educational purpose, for engagement purpose, and they had developed participation or bottom-up approach in this case, and they laid for advocacy, and they extended their this participation phase to the advocacy phase by extending their messages to the schools and colleges. And the most important characteristics of community communication was the viability of this message. The message is still running on, and they lead for the satisfaction and enjoyment because they have there is an economic angle associated with it. The community, they build up different kinds of commodities, and they sell it with the message for conservation of the species. If we look at the use of their media, how they have used the community for how they have sensitized the gender, then it is quite interesting. Here in the slides, you can see this is the they have organized competition where they engage the students. They have created the badge for Hargila Army. Anyone can be a member of this Hargila Army. They have used traditional songs, dramas, and all the folk elements to raise the awareness. They have used these masks, prepared the mask locally available with the locally available ingredients. Then they have used these motifs in local dresses, mekhela sador, and in gamusas. Then they have also used, if you look at, they have also celebrated through the mehendis and all these popular items they have used as a part of communication message for sensitization as well as for awareness building and interest creation. Second thing is important is their storytelling approach. They have developed local stories which was associated with the bird, and now they have, from the filthy species, they have made the species as a species of pride. They have also used the cultural components like they do for, it is quite interesting, they do for a baby shower for the birds which is breeding for the first time. They do baby shower at the end of just immediately before the bird lays the eggs. They also do one kind of rituals, panchamrit, which is actually celebrated for the first time mother during the 5th month of mother, woman. So they also use this Pansamrit ritual with the bird which is first time, conceiving and will have egg their reproduction. So this is celebrated for the greater adjacent stock. Now, this has created an effect on the woman that the bird is a part of our community. They are no longer others. They are no longer they are birds to be treated with ill-treated, or they should be excluded, but they should be they are part of our community. So this is inclusion of these cultural components has led for more community engagement in conservation of this successful story of Purnima Devi. Now, they have later used this face-to-face communication, and they have also engaged the school student and colleges for advocacy. If we look at government is also definitely providing helping hand for preservation, publicity, and conservation of the species. But if we look at the approach of the government, this is a very linear one. There is no scope for feedback, no communication. But if we look at the success story of Purnima Devi, she has used the community, engaged the community, participated. She has taken the views. They have engaged the whole Hargila army, that to the women. And if we come to the way forward, if we analyze the steps they have taken for the success of the conservation of this species, then we see they have tried to raise the attention.
5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Dr. Bhatti, 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure. I'm coming closer to my slide presentation. So if we look at, then we see they have first drew the attention of the community on the topic, first on the species, and second on the secondary message, that is the conservation of the trees. So they drew the attention of the community. This attention led for the interest of the community to conserve the Hargila or the greater adjacent stork. Now, after they have raised the interest, this led for the awareness on the issue, and they have the women, the Hargila army have generated awareness by creating rallies, by developing the message, and they took it to the action level. And they promoted the participation of both men and women in this whole process. And when the trees were conserved, observed, the birds again came back to do the nesting, and they, they also cared the injured birds, and they have laid for the participants in such way they have laid for the participation of the both community, both man and woman, and this laid for the advocacy. And here it is interesting, the administration, government bodies also joined Purnima Devi for advocacy process, and this is now also continuing. She is given the UN's highest award for conserving these endangered species this year. So from in conclusion, my suggestions are that we should, for community communication and gender sensitization, we should develop geocentric, locally suitable message for effective communication. And inclusion of ethnic knowledge, traditions, rituals, and association of culture is important for successful community communication, gender sensitization, and sustainable development. And this is the goal of sustainable development, where women is being encouraged to take participation. And at the end, I like to acknowledge my student Aparna Haloi and one of the leading photographers, Subhamay Bhattacharjee, for helping me in developing this presentation. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity. That's on the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bharti. It was really wonderful and a very extensive presentation, and thank you for introducing Purnima Devi's case to us. Over to Dr. Devjyoti for his observations or queries.
Thank you, Dr. Bharti, for this very heartwarming case study. This case study is important because it shows us that different methods of communication, from interpersonal communication, group communication, participatory communication, advocacy communication, use of folk and traditional media, can be gainfully utilized to bring together different elements from the society to do good work, and here change the mood altogether. From a species which was shunned to a species which was cared for like a child, and the ecological balance, the biological cycle, they were playing a very, like the vultures also, they are vulnerable species, and if we want to carry on this natural biological cycle and the natural cycle, these birds, these species play a very, very important role. And here, this particular study was all the more important because, see, before you had to conserve the birds, you had to take care of the trees. And to take care of the trees, you needed the initiation of the men, because it is the cutting down of the trees, you know, as you suddenly mentioned before. I was feeling a bit let down because our chair is a lady, my co-chair is a lady, my presenter is a lady, and men were using all the I was thinking of seeking the protection of. So a very important role that men, women, everybody together, school children, groups, activists, all together must come together to, because this is a very important work. When I was young, and we were taught in school that a country technically should at least have, ideally, 33% of forest cover. And in our country, 70% of that 30%, 33% forest cover were being given by the Northeast. Because still at that area of our country, the forests were protected. But these protection of forests, care for the forest, came from the traditional tribal local culture. They conserved the forests. They took care of Mother Nature much more than other people did. And this is very, very important. However, with the industrialization, with the lack of employment opportunities, etc., people were gradually moving away from these very ancient traditions that were there. Here, Purnima Devi did a wonderful job. And I think
Yeah.
therefore she has been acknowledged by the highest body, the United Nations. And
Yes.
I must
Yeah.
thank you for presenting this paper, because many this side were not aware of the good work that she
Yes.
has been doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Over to session co-chair, Ms. Mukherjee. Ms. Devani Mukherjee,
Thank
your
you. Yeah.
observations.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Bharti, for such a wonderful presentation.
Thank
Because
you.
this is far away from the strict, rigid, and heavy titled papers which are generally presented in conferences and seminars, which you really need to listen and rack your brain to understand. But this was such a different kind of an approach, and but so important at the same time, talking about the existence of a particular bird being hated and thrown out, and then being conserved so that the nature can be saved. It was, I would really appreciate this paper. I'm really appreciating this presentation, and I have really learned a lot from this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Up next, we have presentation by Dr. Preeta Chakravarti, and the title of the presentation is Memorialization and Representation, New Media as the Anchalik Public Sphere. Dr. Preeta, you ready?
Yeah, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes.
Please start your
Yeah.
presentation. You will have 15 minutes. Your time begins now.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes. You can make it full screen if you
Yeah,
want.
I just did. Can you see it full screen?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you so much for organizing something. And I've been listening to all these presentations this in this particular panel, especially, and I was realizing that in a lot of ways, my presentation is going to be exact opposite of a lot of things that we are listening in this thing in this session. And in that way, maybe possibly a little ironical that this is a presentation, this is a topic that fits into a topic as such as alternate media and CSR. But without further ado, I'll just begin. So this is a presentation in which this is a paper in which I will be looking at a certain kind of language politics that has taken shape through the new media in the course of this entire COVID period, especially where a lot of the cultural production that was happening in Bengal was happening through new media. And I'm looking at this particular region, of the region that is known as Jangal Mahal, which broadly comprises of the districts of Purulia. It comprises of the Western Midnapur, Bankura, in some cases also Birbhum, and Jhargram, which is a newly formed district which is carved out of the region of Western Midnapur. So this is a part which is adjacent to Jharkhand on one hand, and in some parts of Orissa also it shares border with. So this is a region that has largely been on the margins of the Bengali society, historically speaking, because it has also had a different governance system. But it had the independent vassal state and all of that. But in the course of the coming up of the new media, what has happened is that a lot of the voices from this region has started coming into the public sphere. And before this, what used to happen is a certain representation of this region as this backward, as this authentic, as this, tribal and exotic and almost Orientalist vision that we used to have of this region. And that would get across from our cinema to our literature. In every sense, we would be seeing this region from that angle. And a very relevant example of that would be something in the recent times. Those of you who are coming, who have been familiar with Bengali popular culture, you might have seen something like this. Is the sound audible?
Yes, yes.
So this particular phrase, this "ini bini tapa tini tana tuni tasha," which is a complete nonsense phrase, as has been admitted by the music director who belonged to a very famous Bangla band called Chandrabindu at one point of time from the 1990s. So he himself admits that these are words which doesn't have meaning in totality, but they are words which he has picked up from certain, dictionary of proverb, from where he has picked up these words because they sounded nice. So what I have shown in this particular paper is how, when you think about this region, even today, we end up thinking about them as sound cues, as visual cues, where you put some feathers on your head or some leaves on your head, and you are apparently someone who is giving your nod to that particular region. And what the new media has done in this situation is that it has created an alternative. It has created a space where the people of the region are able to come forth and express themselves not as how they have been imagined by the center of Bengal, that is Calcutta, but as how they imagine themselves to be. So just these are some of the Bengali serials that has been there in TV soap operas. One of the first one, Ishti Kutum, here had this character called Bahamuni, which has been one of the major entry points of this region into the mainstream Bengali popular culture, where you have this girl from this region who is shown to be married by circumstances into a Bengali Bhadralok family, and how then she gets absorbed into the family. That's the entire story, which is also pretty much the story of most of these things in some way or the other. The other story, our story that the new media allows this region to speak about, is what I'm calling the Ancholik public sphere. And why I'm calling it Ancholik, and Ancholik within quotes, is because the word Ancholik means regional. When the poets from this region, authors from this region, cultural activists from this region, when they are trying to talk about the language of this region or the culture of this region, they don't necessarily want to call themselves Ancholik. In fact, Debabrata Singho, on the left hand side, you can see a clipping from he's a poet and a novelist from the region, and you will see that when he insists that his poem not to be called Ancholik but Loko Sadharoner Kobita, which is the poetry of the ordinary people. Similarly, you have Devashish Tondo, whose claim to fame was a particular comic show in the TV channel called Miracle, which became like a very where his language became the source of comedy. What you see here is like, just a very small slice of a lot of cultural production that has been happening from these regions, which are expressed through the new media. And this also brings together a certain linguistic imagination of the region. And that is to also say that this region is not a monolithic region. This linguistic imagination, when we are talking about, on one hand, we have there is an imagination of a Manbhum linguistic region, which is mainly centered around Purulia. And it's a part of what is called, and it's not something well discussed, but the western part of Bengal also had a small but significant share of language movement, Bengali language movement against the imperialism of the Hindi imposition. And that happened between 1947 to 1955, and that becomes one of the sources for the linguistic assertion for the Manbhum Bhasha Andolan and the Manbhum region. Similarly, just to give an idea about how the people of this region, even when they are not thinking about it politically, even when they are not trying to do any kind of language politics with it, but just trying to talk about themselves and their region and their language, how they want to be represented, just to give you a small idea. As you can see, the visual representation of the region has the jungle, but that's not all. It also has highways. It also has modernity in the way that the region is imagined by its people.
Now you're left with families.
So just the reason I showed this bit is to take you through how the imagination of the people from the region is about themselves vis-a-vis how they are imagined by the people from the center. So in one way, if we think about it, we can go back to the, formulation of Jenkins as participatory culture, how the new media becomes the, location for participatory culture, or for that matter, Atom's everyday production of the internet by ordinary people. And what I find really useful to think about this is Burgess's formulation of the vernacular creativity. And what I have here is that against what we see, all of these things, and we also see, as I said, this people from the center, people from Calcutta coming up with a certain kind of representation of this language. And here I have just 4-5 sentences, 4-5 lines, an excerpt for a poem by Debashish Darto called Ad Pedra Bhasha, or Distorted Language. And I'm not going to read out the language because I don't have the correct pronunciation for it. I'll just read out the translation of it, which says, you are educated people from Kolkata. You will indeed speak our language better than us. Our dense forests have disappeared, our unfertile lands, fertile hillocks, roads, banks, everything has disappeared. Now let this language also go. So it's a sort of sarcasm. It's also a certain sense of exasperation that okay, all we had was this language, now you want to take up this language too. And that becomes important. Why? Because what is happening in the context of how this cultural production from these regions is getting appropriated by the people of the other regions across who have that kind of access, reach, and popularity and views and subscribers on YouTube and social media. So this is a small sample of a digital ethnography that I've done of this particular poem called Page by Devbrata Singho, which has been uploaded by the poet himself, but obviously that loses out in its popularity to a lot of other uploads, and how the particular poem gets circulated, how it is getting presented on YouTube. So just to wrap it up, and I don't want to take up any more time, but what this is also doing is that it is changing the character of how people are thinking about, are writing this poetry now, how people are writing these songs now. They are no longer thinking about these songs or these poems as narratives of the region, but following the model of the sound cues, because that's what works on the new media, that's what works on the social media, and which is where, when the very kind of productions that have come up against the something like an Inibini Tapatini succumbs to the same model. And we have, I'll just end my presentation with a little bit of song again. It's by a band called Mohul from Jhargram, who actually have created this song in the same model, using meaningless sounds as empty sound cues, resulting a certain kind of complete depoliticization of whatever the narrative of the region represented.
Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Over to the session chair for the queries and observation. And I may also remind that participants are welcome to ask any queries or questions here in the chat box. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Prita Chakraborty. Cultural studies is not my, it's a very niche area, and I'm not into it. So I was also trying to understand and learn. Of course, the new media has opened up spaces for people, and often people who are considered as the other has now created their own space. And this is always a very welcome development, because people think differently, walk differently, talk differently, eat differently, but everybody for them, that is special. And when they by using the new media, if they can come closer, and if they can present themselves to a wider audience, that is always a very welcome development. Any questions from you, ma'am? Thank you so much.
Ms. Mukherjee, your observation and queries, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Pritha. Since I am personally into theatre, and I also conduct classes on folk media because I love to do so, this amalgamation of this local and regional culture was very interesting for me to listen. And this Inibini Tapatini has counted innumerable accolades, and the songs coming in different types on different reels which I've come across was really interesting. But I would also like to say that you have a lovely voice and a very, very subtle form of presentation, which I really enjoyed. But this is also true that if they are losing everything, the forests, the banks, maybe their lifestyles, everything, if they're losing, they are suffering from a kind of a frustration or depression that they're losing their language and let it go. They're actually not losing the language. In return, we are learning more. We are learning the usage, the rhythm, the melody of the language. That is all I observed from your paper. It was very nice listening to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly, it is a matter of identity crisis also. It's not about cultural appropriation, but very interesting. Thank you, Dr. Preeta. Over to our next presenter, Nikita, and title of the presentation is Role of Incentive Modeling for Employee Engagement in Corporate Social Responsibility. You can start your presentation. Yes,
If
please,
I
sir.
may briefly intervene,
Yes,
before
yes.
our president, we don't know who they are, from where they are coming, what is their background, what
Okay.
are they engaged in. Our presenters, if they say one or two words about themselves also, then we can relate
Yeah,
better.
that will be
Like
welcoming.
Dr.
So,
who just left us, what is she doing now, where she is engaged in.
Um,
If you learn that, we can always be in touch.
Sure.
yes.
I am just to answer that, Dr. Chandu. I am Dr. Preetha Chakraborty. I am an assistant professor at Dr. Vishwanath Farad, MIT World Peace University, Pune.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you. So, next presenter is now. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you there? Jean Nikita was supposed to present up next. Are you there?
Ma'am, she will be joining late. She's facing some
Okay.
technical issues. So you can call the next presenter.
No issues. Up next is Miss Shubhalita Paul. Is she here?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yes.
Am I audible enough?
Yeah. Yes, you're audible. I'll introduce your topic of presentation, but please, as the sir has asked, please introduce yourself also to us. Okay, the topic of the presentation is social media and religious tolerance in West Bengal, a selected digital discourse. So, Ms. Vinita, please start with your introduction, then we'll start your timer.
Okay, good afternoon, one and all my respected chairs, co-chairs, moderator, and my fellow presenters. I am Shubhanita Paul. I'm working as assistant professor of journalism and mass communication at University of Poland. Shall I share my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And your timer has begun now.
Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So my paper, as respected moderator has said, that social media and religious tolerance in West Bengal, a selected digital discourse. So for introduction, the use of religion as a political tool has led to increased polarization and division between different religious communities. Politicians have been accused of using religious rhetoric to mobilize their supporters and gain electoral advantage. Social media has played a significant role in spreading hate speech and misinformation, targeting different religious groups, leading to increased polarization and tensions. Another important aspect is economic disparities between different religious groups have also contributed to polarization. Marginalized communities, particularly religious minorities, have been excluded from economic opportunities and resources, leading to greater resentment and division. On this problem, my aims and objectives are to understand the nature and potential of social media in developing religious and political propaganda by individuals, to examine how religious tolerance is facing challenges by political activists. Some major literature reviews suggest, one of them are by C.V. Varghese. In his study, Religious Conversion and Indian Constitutional Right, a historical analysis in the light of the opposition of Christian conversion in India, he argued that conflicts arise as a result of religious conversion in families, social groupings, and local communities. Moreover, it causes faiths to become politicized. Hindus in India are currently afraid that Muslims and Christians are growing, while the number of Hindus is diminishing due to the conversion issues. Thus, they have organized Shuddhikaran, Ghar Wapsi to welcome them back into the fold. Adivasis and tribal conversion encountered fierce hostility.
Another argument given by Arjun Nauta in his paper Radical Islam, Globalization and Social Media, Martyrdom Videos on the Internet, he argued that martyrdom videos over the Internet serve to legitimize suicide bombers and radical Islamist movements such fundamentalism, Salafism, jihadism and Islamism. From these researches, we can find out that social media has a vast power to motivate people in the case of religious aspects and also in political aspects. The major theoretical framework is postmodernism. Common to all postmodern philosophies are question of power. Unlike systems approach that emphasize the process of public relation in establishing two-way symmetrical relationships designed to sustain an organization's equilibrium in its environment, postmodern perspective considers how language is used to exercise power via domination or resistance. Foucault's concept of micropower is very much valid here, where localized bottom-up agency flowing from individuals in society to larger structures such as institutions and ideologies. Individuals who empower organization by this process may not always realize their strength, and they may not speak practically, but they have many alternatives to do so. But when they do speak, subjects who do not submit to institutionalized power might use micropower for resistance. From that, my research questions are: what is the main trend in religious vis-a-vis political digital discourse in West Bengal currently? What is the role of dialogic exchange in political communication through social media? The researcher that is I have used discourse analysis, because discourse analysis provides powerful tool or understanding how a language is used to construct social realities and how these realities are shaped by social, cultural and political factors. It is used to understand how language works in a social interaction. So I have used discourse analysis. Currently, West Bengal political scenario is diversified and holds many political parties, but there are mainly three leading political parties in the last 2021 election, which were All India Trinamool Congress, AITMC or TMC, Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, and Sangyukta Morcha, which was an alliance of left front, Indian National Congress and Indian Secular Front. From the population of different political parties, the sample here is drawn by the relevance in the scenario. After 2021 assembly election, BJP has become the main opposition and TMC came into power once again. So from the analysis, I have found three most important trends. First is speech as a provocation. Second, speech as a binding principle, and expressive speech. For speech as provocation, it is clearly based on numerous posts that the language and words used by political leaders is inflammatory and can result in confrontation, riots in some communities and other concerns. Some recent example, it happened only yesterday. Tarun Jyoti Tiwari, supporter of Bharatiya Janata Party and well-known face in the media debates defending Bharatiya Janata Party, has posted this where it is written that Hindu Virodhi Mamata, because Mamata Banerjee, our Honorable Chief Minister, has sat for a peaceful dharna in yesterday while on the auspicious day of Ram Navami. So that is why he is tagging her as the Hindu Virodhi Mamata, that is again Mamata Banerjee is against Hinduism. These kinds of terms in social context can create problem and inflammatory and can result in confrontations. Terms like Shankha Logu have been most often used phrase in leadership positions. Shankha Logu is here referring to a minority, namely a religious minority, we all know. However, the implication of this is to utilize a specific religious group in order to secure a voting base using the sympathetic vote. Bengal's political climate has gotten worse as a result of the TET exams aftermath and the scandal surrounding it, which involved crores of money. With the arrest of prominent party members, including the former education minister, the phrases like chor, chored dol, which can be loosely translated as thieves or party of thieves or political party of thieves, have become prevalent to refer to the followers of the ruling party, which acts as a provocation. Next, speech as bonding principle. The ability to receive feedback via social media is undoubtedly one of the most notable advantages of social media, and it is beneficial as it links to leaders, celebrities, and general people through two-way contact. We all know. The ability for both supporters and opponents and comments on posts can lead to conflict and make language and speech the primary governing factor. The scenario is somewhat clarified by the checks on comments, tweets, and retweets. One example I have posted here. Someone has commented on Torun Jyoti Tiwari's post. After shop, I am using the phrase in Bengali. I will try to loosely translate it English later. আপনার সব ভালো শুধু সব কথাতেই মেরুকরণ করতে কেন চান এত কমিউনাল হলে তো সমস্যা, which can be translated as you are a fine person maybe, but this kind of polarize, but why do you want to polarize so much? This much communal can be problematic, which suggests that this person may be a supporter, may be a follower of the person, but he is also disagreeing on certain terms. Even though they are frequently uncalled for, certain Muslim leaders in every one after another post, you can get that Muslim leaders get comments on nearly every post with lines like go to Pakistan, or even then you won't obtain Kashmir, by some BJP supporters. Now comes expressive speech. Expressive speech refers to use of language to express thoughts, feelings, emotions. It is a type of speech that allows individuals to communicate their innermost feelings and attitude towards others. Expressive speech involves the use of words, not only use of words, but intonations, body languages to convey meanings and emotions. One of such instances is found in one of the Devanshu Bhattacharya's posts. We all know Devanshu Bhattacharya is a known face in political media debates in while defending Trinamool Congress. He has posted a photo with a cow. I am quoting his post. হঠাৎ দেখা শেষমেশ মাঠে দেখা হয়েই গেল, তাকে জিজ্ঞেস করলাম কত ক্যারেটের সোনা এখন তিনি দিচ্ছেন মোটামুটি, জানতে চাইলাম তার সন্তানেরা দেশ জুড়ে যে তাণ্ডব নৃত্য চালাচ্ছে সেই বিষয়ে তিনি কি খুশি, জিজ্ঞেস করলাম আপনি কি চান আপনার সন্তানেরা করোনা সারাতে আপনার মূত্র পান করুক, and it goes on, which means that the photo said that while posting a photo with a cow, he has targeted the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, and the misleading comments that they have used, many a times used in the media. Let's conclude. In conclusion, the effects of religious polarization in West Bengal have been far-reaching. It has led to instances of violence, discrimination, and marginalization of religious minorities. The polarization has also led to increased distrust and animosity between different communities, which can have long-lasting effects on social cohesion and stability. Religious organizations of every kind have actively embraced computer technology since its introduction. A huge expansion of religious databases and user groups has coincided with the internet's amazing rise. Nearly every religious organization has a website, Facebook groups, and other religious instructions on YouTube. In a manner, the internet and the World Wide Web have helped the theoretical argument become more precise and attention-grabbing for a wider audience. These are the major research work that I have studied and used for the purpose of my research. Thank you.
Thank you. It was well timed. Over to Dr. T.
Hello, dear moderator. Can I just
Yes, sir. Please.
can I just brief it?
Yes, sir.
Shubhinita, before the chair boils down to his thought, I would like to say that this is a very controversial paper which you have given. It's not a paper. It is majorly a discussion which can happen with ABP Anando desktop, which can be a topic of debate every evening that is transmitted on television and different channels. So my request, I know you have put in a lot of efforts, but refrain yourself to use such topics when you are going for an international conference or a seminar and you're presenting. And such words like chore and chore, these are very newspaper news language. This is not a presentation, paper presentation. So dear, kindly refrain from next time. Please shape your paper, give a proper ideation, and then come back for the conference. Thank you. Over to Debajyoti, Dr. Debajyoti. Dear moderator, could you please take it up?
Yeah, to be honest, I was also very disturbed with the paper, and I had a talk with the authority, and then I was informed that the paper was not given in full and they had no knowledge of what was in the paper. This is an academic platform, and the kind of things that were selected, and of course, see at the last, in the conclusion, what you see saying that this kind of discourse in social media has led to violence, discrimination, and marginalization of minorities in the state. Now, this is a very one-way. This is an immediate open Pandora's box.
Absolutely.
Because what she presented was a very two-way galagali to each other. But
absolutely.
Minorities has been discriminated. This was not a.
This was not an academic paper. This was not an academic paper.
And you should not have ever chosen this. I disapprove of this paper.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Debajyoti.
All right. Moving on. I think Ms. Nikita has joined back. Are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Nikita, we'll take your presentation now. Role of incentive modeling for employee engagement and corporate social responsibility. Plus, please introduce yourself first, then carry on with your presentation.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, one and all present here. I am Nikita. I am Assistant Professor at Symbiosis Center for Management Studies, Bangalore. And I'm here to present my paper based on employee engagement. Just a moment, I'll just share my screen. Ma'am, could you please...
Your timer is begun now. It is visible. Start from the first slide.
Yes, ma'am, sure. Okay. I just wanted to mention the small area here that I had slightly changed in terms of the role of incentive modeling, because that's also a part of my study now. I have widened it slightly. So while I gave my abstract in the initial phase, I had not looked at that. So right now it is effectiveness of internal communication for employee engagement with respect to organizational CSR in the banking and finance sector. Like I mentioned, I am Nikita. I am with the Symbiosis Center for Management Studies for the past 6 years. And I am with my co-author, Dr. N. Tilaka, who is also the Assistant Professor at Symbiosis School of Media and Communication, Bangalore.
Hello.
The motivation for my study on internal communication has been driven from how internal communication has been really important for bringing about better employee engagement and transparency. With the rise of digital PR, we do see that it has led to a lot of more structured and customized and shared method and a measured method of looking at internal communication. So the research that I focus on is on understanding how internal communication is bringing about better employee engagement. I have looked at the oral and computer mediated tools, as well as looking at the role of internal communication message and how internal communication is well aligned with organizational goals to create better employee engagement in organizational CSR. The literature for my study starts from understanding the evolution of internal communication, where in the pre-1960s, we see it was very industry-driven, slowly diving towards becoming more realistic in their language. And today, post-1980s, we see that the internal communication is really different in terms of showing that the employees and the organizations are seeking mutual benefits from each other. The CSR communication strategies have also been noticed in literature, and how stakeholder information is being spread across and disseminated. The Internal Communication Matrix in 2007 talks about different strategies, directions, tools used by organizations for effective internal communication. A book on internal communication by Mr. Anisu Burgess also talks about business case study approach, which is where the employee communication and focus is expected to be higher than looking at just profit making according to a business. The latest paper that I studied in the MDPI, there is a journal in the MDPI that I saw was based on CSR concerns model that talks about how employees perceive a CSR and how do they feel about a CSR. Moving on to the theoretical framework, I looked at the three-dimensional model of employee engagement. It has been evolved also from the cognitive behavioral theory of 1960s that talks about three aspects of how someone thinks, feels, and behaves with respect to, these are three components of the CBT model, and the three-dimensional model talks about the same from an employee's perspective. The Victor Vroom's expectancy theory also adds value to my study. This is the conceptual framework that I have created as a part of my literature. Once I did that, I have evolved this where internal communication message leads to traditional as well as digital tools. So there are traditional tools and digital tools that could lead to employee engagement with respect to cognitive, affective, and behavioral component of employees. So the cognitive component is about how employees perceive the organization's ability to take up CSR. The moral appeal that they have in the affective component, moral appeal about the CSR, and the benefits that they get with respect to CSRs. Like I mentioned earlier, it is about understanding oral and computer-mediated internal communication tools to bring about better employee engagement, the study of CSR, internal communication message, and the influence of internal communication aligning to organizational goals. The method of my study is purely descriptive by nature. I have looked at sectors that are highly spent in CSR and have contributed maximum in India. I have looked at top 3 sectors that have the highest expenditure according to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs annual reports, financial year 2019 and 20. Banking and finance is noticed to be the one that has highest amount of expenditure. In that, so the banking and finance sector contributes 1,372 crores, in which 350 crores is just from SBI. My research questions are: what are the oral and computer mediated tools of internal communication used for organizations to communicate organizational CSR? It is about how internal communication messages influence employee engagement in organizational CSR and the use of internal communication message aligning with organizational goals. The design is where I looked at an employee survey of 92 respondents from different levels, designation, age, tenure, gender, etc. It was a convenient sampling of employees that were in the banking and finance sector. I did this survey to understand how they perceive organizations' ability to increase employee engagement in CSR. That is my first hypothesis. The second is how moral identity of the employees aligning with the CSR goals increases employee engagement in organizational CSR, and employee benefits increasing employee engagement in organizational CSR. To complement my study, I have also looked at a qualitative approach of in-depth interviews with 3 CSR experts at different levels of leadership who were from top as well as mid-management level. I would now like to present the qualitative study of in-depth interview of 3 CSR experts from top management level and mid-management level. The questions were broadly based on internal communication tools, the traditional and computer-mediated tools used, the CSR activities at the organization, how the CSR activities are spread in terms of awareness to internal stakeholders, the importance and purpose of CSR, the CSR message, its motto, as well as looking at employees' perception, volunteering, and the benefits out of CSR. These were the codes that I've generated as a part of my study. There are 13 codes and I have grouped them up into 3 different themes. Channels of CSR awareness was looked at computer mediated as well as traditional tools. Internal communication in terms of CSR communication, message, motto, purpose, and importance of CSR. I have manually done the, out of my transcription, I have manually decoded them in Atlas TI. And then employee engagement in CSR was looked from employee benefits, motivation, perception, alternate ways of informing, employee awareness, and volunteering in CSR. The themes is, I deduced it from the existing theories and have applied it to my transcripts. So as a part of deductive approach, I have looked at applying these predetermined codes to my study and have structured my analysis. The themes that I have generated is one which was based on the channels of CSR awareness, were traditional and computer mediated. Traditionally, meetings, in-house magazines, workshops, word of mouth, or employee referrals are seen as major tools of traditional ways of conveying messages. Huddle meetings and workshops are seen to be highly effective. At the same time, computer mediated messages mostly were through a intranet web portal, which is called the SBI Times, that was prominently used. And emails and online discussion forums were followed up much later. Traditional tools that were less likely to be used were due to the because it's very ineffective in terms of larger workforce. Traditional tools do not have a scalability, according to the chief manager. I had also interviewed the president of SBI Foundation. According to the clinical psychologist, when it comes to computer mediated messages, they are much more quicker and faster in terms of communication. Other advantages with respect to computer mediated messages is that it could also look at better feedback and it's quite accessible. With internal communication as a theme, internal communication is seen majorly through, like I mentioned, the intranet portal of SBI. The in-house magazines were also places where it was published, but there is a requirement to make it more creative in terms of conveying CSR activities to employees. It is expected to be more creative. It is also mentioned by the chief manager of SBI that it can be more comprehensive and simple and a one-pager. Adding some humane and touching and appealing pictures and making it more as to reflecting how they've changed the lives of people could be more attractive to the employees and motivate them to be a part of CSR, according to the clinical psychologist at SBI. The CSR motto cannot always align with organizational goals, according to them, because SBI has two segments, which is the SBI Foundation and the Youth for India Foundation. So both of these again.
5 minutes left, reminder.
All right. So when it comes to, again, SBI having these two segments, since the number of activities that they do is excess, they cannot always align it to the mottos of the organization. Apart from that, there is an observed lag in the employee communication. The purpose of CSR is to overall bring about a corporate patriotism and passion amongst employees. The engagement begins with awareness. So employee awareness is pointed out to be the most important thing. Apart from that, there is a diverse perception amongst employees. Some are very comfortable working on weekends towards CSR. On the other hand, some are apprehensive. The motivation is clearly based on three things. One is if it is a skill involved CSR where employees could donate their skills, such as maybe offering financial literacy when they're in the banking and finance sector. Secondly, maybe motivation based on having a good CSR message. And finally, giving rewards and recognitions. On a contrast, it's also observed that volunteering should not be incentivized, according to some of the experts. Overall, social tie-ups would be seen as very effective. Giving employees a range of choices could be helpful in bringing about better employee engagement in CSR, as well as rewards and recognition at public forums and giving them more of a recognition and understanding the pattern of employees who repetitively are involved in CSR would be appreciated. As a part of my quantitative study, I had 92 respondents from the banking and finance sector. This is the demographical characteristics of my sample here, which were divided on age, gender, education level, and management level. The tenure of the employees at the current place, in the current position, as well as the current organization, was seen in terms of association. I had recognized that people have stayed in the organization for longer than the current position, which also means that they would have been promoted. So the tenure 1 of the current position and tenure 2 were drawn through an association coefficients analysis here, and I've seen that the tenure in the current position, that is 1 to 3 years, is closely associated with 4 to 7 years. Similarly, the current position of 4 to 7 years is closely associated with 10 years and above in the organization. The variables for my study is internal communication as the independent variable. The dependent variable is employee engagement, and the independent variable is affected majorly on the dependent variable through moral appeal, organization ability to conduct CSR, and the employees' benefits that they take. Some of the social demographic characteristics were also gender, age, level of education, management level, and tenure. My first hypothesis on perceived organizational ability increases employee engagement in CSR was seen through a regression probe that I conducted, and the significance is highly seen when the question majorly was based on would you like to participate in CSR activities organized by your company. The major significance here, which is lesser in 0.05, is majorly on importance of CSR. Education and health being highly preferred by employees, CSR must be executed according to them. And finally, the perceived organizational ability to take up more CSR is higher. Hence, I would say that the perceived organizational ability to increase employee engagement in CSR is appropriate and is proven. The moral identity of employees aligning with organizational goal increases employee engagement. Again, two questions based on what they think CSR should contribute towards and what they would like to participate were being seen in question 12 and 13, which draws an association again in terms of coefficient analysis. I have done this through SPSS, and I have seen the inferences that the association between education picked here in question 12 and education again in question 13.
Please try to conclude its time.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. So I do see a close association between health and education to be very high as per my study. So it is seen that moral identity somewhere impacts. I had also, to confirm my studies, looked at a regression probe on moral appeal alone, and the significance again lies high in education and health. Finally, employee benefits were being seen in terms of moral appeal being the highest, and the second pick being payroll as closely associated to other variables in terms of online discussion forums. And they also want to look at web portal and corporate applications as being their most important ways of conveying this. Most of the employees feel good and proud and responsible about their organizations taking it. Most of the responses were positive out of my 92 respondents. And this is the last slide based on the overall regression that I have done. Based on the participation, payroll and moral appeal and leaves are closely associated. Education and health were observed to be highest, but education, gender equality and no poverty were the areas where mostly employees would want to contribute. The major channels of communication that they would want to be conveyed through are meetings, web portals, corporate apps, and online discussion forums. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Over to Dr. Dudjoti for his.
Thank you, Nidhika. This was a good presentation. Often when we talk of CSR, and CSR being, earlier it was voluntary, today after the amendment of the Companies Act, this is compulsory. And when we talk about CSR, we generally look outside. We look at the external publics of any organization. CSR is almost like, in inverted commas, meant for the external publics because it increases a company's interface with the outside world and increases the company's image with the outside world. But we generally tend to forget that it is the internal publics which make up the company. And if you do not look within, then your outside will also not be. Now, you will use the term moral many times in your presentation. Why so? Moral obligation or duty, or it comes from within? What is your, when you are dealing with the employees, when you are talking to the employees, what do you think is there? Are they doing it out of any compulsion, or they feel as part of the company they must be engaged in CSR activities, which has definitely a social value?
Yes, sir. Thank you for your question. So actually, when I see that industry experts perceive that it is also a push from the management that employees have to be involved in such activities. But sometimes we also see that the perception of employees is diverse. Some employees are very comfortable working for the CSR. On the other hand, some are very apprehensive about it. But on the same lines, when we are talking about moral appeal, I have observed that whatever they are very, very much relating themselves to, in the sense, in their personal lives, if they are more inclined towards, CSRs that they think organizations should do in terms of education and health, that they majorly are, according to my study, inclined towards, they are also ready to participate in something that is aligned to their moral appeal. So as a part of my study, this is one reason why I try to understand what will bring more engagement among employees in CSR, and is that moral appeal, does it really fall as one of the major factors for them to participate and engage in the CSRs?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Mukherjee for her point.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Nikita, for this lovely, extensive and detailed presentation. Definitely, CSR is an important wing of all the corporates these days. In fact, why the corporates? The government organizations are also trying to implement CSR into it. But your presentation was extensive, and I really don't have any questions to ask you. And Dr. Devajyoti has substantiated it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Vadi.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I think we also invited questions from the participants. If they're not there, we'll go for our next presentation. All right. Up next is presentation on something which is the buzzword lately, ChatGPT. The title of the presentation is ChatGPT, the questions of ethics and ideology. I think this is very topical, and the presentation is a collaborated work by Gaurav Chatterjee, Tanmay Pudulanda, and Deepachandli Roy.
I'm using it. How can I tell them not to
Sorry?
use it? I'm using it. How can I tell them not to use it? ChatGPT.
Yes.
So easy way out. Preparing
Yes.
a speech, ask questions, all the answers, assemble it and go and talk.
It would not promote AI, it would decrease our creativity and innovation.
Our engagement with everything will stop now. We'll just ask the 3-4 pertinent questions, get all the answers, and prepare that and give it. Stop thinking. It will just, okay,
yes.
Let them make the presentation.
Let's see what they have up for us. Are you ready? Who will be presenting amongst you?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible properly?
Yes. Please briefly introduce yourself and your co-author.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for introducing us, and thank you for the introduction of the paper as well. As like you have already mentioned, the title of the paper is ChatGPT, the question of ideology and ethics, and it is co-authored by Professor Tanmay Pudulanda, Professor Debanjali Roy, and me, Dr. Gaurav Chatterjee. I will request Professor Tanmay Pudulanda to share the screen, and I'll be reading the paper.
Dr. Gaurav, can you introduce yourself and two other contributors briefly? Just, what are your affiliations and where are you?
Yes, ma'am. We are assistant professors in School of Language and Literature, Kolingo Institute of Industrial Technology, deemed to be University, Bhubaneswar.
All right, you can begin your presentation and your timer begins now.
Thank you, ma'am. This paper seeks to explore the connection between ChatGPT, a generative pre-trained transformer, and the formation of knowledge in cyberspace, and problematizes the ambiguous ideological and ethical position the program holds. The conventional way of understanding knowledge and how it is generated through a discourse and depicts power positions has become nuanced and complex after Web 2.0 replaced.
Sir, please move the screen. We can just see the title.
Yeah, like once it is needed, it will be.
Okay.
Thank you. The conventional way of understanding knowledge and how it is generated through a discourse and depicts power position has become nuanced and complex after Web 2.1 replaced Web 1.0 with its interactive and participatory platform, where users can actively take part in the formation of knowledge. The knowledge production system, be it Wikipedia or YouTube or any social networking site, does not only provide data, but also empowers the users to edit, modify, and question the information. For example, Wikipedia being a free and collaborative encyclopedia and making knowledge accessible to everyone, on the one hand, challenges the capitalist understanding of private property, and on the other hand, makes the internet as a reservoir of a complex source of data, often referred to as the big data, a new form of capital which is invested to manufacture more data and consequently feeds the neoliberal economic system. Now the question is, what is ChatGPT? With the advent of ChatGPT, the scenario has become more complicated. ChatGPT, as you can see, is a language processing model owned by OpenAI. It imitates the human conversational pattern and responds to any form of verbal cue. The responses, which are customized according to the user and the earlier conversation of the AI program with the user, may range from sharing information, giving critical insight, and creating creative pieces. It also allows the user to point out its mistakes, disagree with the output, and regenerate the content. ChatGPT has the potential to redefine the notion of interactivity and exchange of ideas over the digital space. The program, which does not have a thinking mind and can hardly produce data, is run by a complex algorithm to function on a huge database sourced from the internet and fetches data from multiple sources, which may also include the user, him or herself. As the program is modeled upon the structure of human conversation, the exchanges of information and ideas between the user and machine creates a discursive space of knowledge production, where the knowledge is often shaped up by the ideological positions of the agents. However, since ChatGPT uses multiple sources, it is unable to provide any information regarding the source of the data it fetches. Thus, the ideological transparency and balance become impossible to achieve in the discursive space created by ChatGPT. As it has been argued by Michel Foucault that ideology is a system of power relations that produce certain effects of truth, the production of knowledge in ChatGPT creates a very complex power dynamics between the machine and the user and raises questions regarding the ethicality of the practice and ideological biases. According to the definition proposed by Michel Foucault, a discourse, which is essentially a false consciousness, is a network of different ideological positions regulated by power. The knowledge, which is synonymous to power, as Foucault pointed out, determines the notion of truth and falsehood within a discourse. By mimicking the human conversational pattern and by fetching the data from multiple sources, ChatGPT creates a space which can be very much homologous to a discursive space of knowledge formation, thus contributing to the power network utilized and appropriated by dominant ideological positions. As we have already seen, discourse plays an important Discourse plays an important role in creation and validation of knowledge by engaging individuals in dialogue, articulating perspectives and challenging each other's ideas. Hence, through discourse, individuals develop a shared understanding and or perception of any concept or topic. This understanding, which is based on the perceived knowledge, is invariably controlled and propagated by the hegemonic institutions such as government, legal system, education, media, and religion. The question of ideology in the context of AI has invited scholarly debates. For instance, Melanie Michel, as you can see, discussed how the language itself is constructed, and as AI draws from existing language produced by human agency, its language can also be biased. In a country like India, where internet access can be conditioned by geographical location, age, religion, class, caste, and gender, the digital divide also informs such biases. Timnit Gebru, as you can see here, has demonstrated how marginalized groups' ideologies are often less represented in the data that large language models encode. This bias, in fact, has also been acknowledged by an OpenAI report of 2029, which opines that the previous version of ChatGPT, that is ChatGPT 2, was at risk of manipulation. David Rosado has spoken about how the hegemonic and influential institutions create and perpetuate such biases. In the conclusion, it can be said that though OpenAI acknowledges the biases and cyberethics may identify the data generated by ChatGPT as plagiarized for not mentioning sources, there remains a question of intentionality, which is subjective and human-driven. ChatGPT, addressing itself as I, as you can see in the screenshot, or mimicking the presence of an individual self, surely represents a very complex discursive space, which actively contributes to the knowledge corpus, but the hegemonizing effect it may cause finally depends on the human agencies or the power structure which controls cyberspace. Thank you. Yes, I think
Congratulations. Over to Dr. Datafication for his observations and queries.
Thank you for the paper. On one hand, you have a complex algorithm and artificial intelligence. On the other hand, you have knowledge, power, truth and falsehood, and discourse, and a lot of ethical questions, of course. Somebody who is just before using ChatGPT, absolutely powerless. After using ChatGPT, can be very powerful, and he, without having even delved into a particular issue with any seriousness, can add to the process and the way of discourse. This, of course, for any social scientist is very disturbing. And where this will lead to, we do not know, because this is one of the very introductory type of algorithms that we have got. And with the way as things are developing, it will be time that we'll just stop thinking. And artificial intelligence will take over the entire system. Then where will the knowledge go? This entire academic structure that we have built up, it is absolutely crumbling in no way. I was called for a very important conference, and I was trying to gather information. My research scholar said, so what are the basic things that he sat with me for half an hour and we prepared the speech. Without going into books, without delving into anything, we were ready with a presentation. And this is, it's an goosebumps for me. And I'm very worried. I do not have any questions. because these type of algorithms have opened up a Pandora's box, and where, as a human race, where we are leading, such questions are there. Very valid, very pertinent questions, and this paper again raises these issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We'll have queries and observations from Dr. Mukherjee now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Gaurav Chatterjee. And it was once again nice to see that Devanjali and Tanmay, they have also participated and they have given this paper jointly. I can't see them, but I love to go through this presentation because they are also there. Hi to Devanjali and Tanmay. And so what I would like to say is Devajyoti has said enough. Dr. Devajyoti has already commented enough. Yes, it's true that we are ultimately becoming robots. The future is too gloomy, but then you cannot stop the growth of digitization. Once it is into your drawing space or living space, you cannot just stop its growth, and it will grow. It will grow. It will make us crippled, and we will have to fight with it. But I'm also very optimistic. Since I'm optimistic by nature, I would also say that it will not take up, it will not allow us to get crumbled. Human, as human beings, will stay there, we'll go for physical interactions, and the hybrid mode will be also there. But this presentation was extensive, and I also gained a lot of knowledge about AI, and constantly I'm into learning of machine learning, unsupervised and supervised part of machine learning, which also talks about artificial intelligence. So this is an important part of our life, and we are changing vehemently. We are changing, but we still believe, I at least still believe, that we are not going to become complete robots. We'll still remain as human being and fight with it. Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, Tanmay, and Devanjali once again.
Devavani ma'am, am I audible? Like
yes,
now?
Yes, you are. You are. You are.
I have been waiting for a long time. Like I believe there was a technical glitch from my end. It's really lovely seeing you after a long time. And
yeah. Thank you so much.
And interestingly, Dr. Chanda had spoken about creativity and ChatGPT. Sir, I would like to bring to your knowledge, like the other day, we were having, we were using ChatGPT, and we gave it random words and asked it to write a poem on that topic. So, it made. There was probably the emotions were not there, which we usually associate with a poem or any literary piece per se, but it did. So it's really a matter of concern. It's really a matter of concern, as you very rightly pointed out at the very beginning. So yeah.
As we say, we saved the best for the last. But wonderful, fruitful session today, and first of all, thank you to session chair, Dr. Devji Channa, and Miss Devani Mukherjee, session co-chair, for taking out time out of your busy schedules, and not only being here, also giving their very valuable insights into various papers you've been presenting. Thank you to the various presenters. Have been very patient with us, and also, come up with such dynamic papers. I am impressed with the kind of work they have done. So it is really heartwarming, and it is very enriching when you have such serious, such papers which are not just for the act of presenting in a conference. So thank you each one of you. Thank you, Ms. Priya Ghosh, the student coordinator, and Dr. Sharmila, who's been a very, I would say, enthusiastic organizer, and congratulations to them. Dr. Sharmila, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
over to you, and thank you for having us over. Thanks.
Thank you so
And
much,
ma'am,
ma'am.
just one thing, I'll just take 30 seconds more. Wonderful selection of papers. I mean, barring one paper where we had little political problem, but then these papers, wonderful selection, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. My heartfelt thanks to Session Chair, Professor Dr. Debojyoti Chandu, Co-Session Chair, Ms. Devavani Mukherjee, Nidhi Chaudhary, ma'am. Always you are, a call away. Whenever I have tried to call you, just answered, and you have answered to my messages call. Great to have you, ma'am, and the participants, lovely participants, former colleague Debanjali Tanmoy, and my research scholar Arunima Mukherjee, Gaurav Chatterjee. I have heard a lot from Tanmoy. Very nice presentation, and our student coordinator Priyanka Ghosh. Wonderful session. We have learned a lot, and we have gone through different perspectives and different papers, and we look forward for conference proceedings which will be there in ISPR, and we'll shortly publish the full paper in Scopus or UGCK listed journal. So we are in the verge of that, and we require 3 to 4 months for that. We will be communicating shortly regarding all these things. Thank you so much. You can leave now, and requesting everyone to join in the valedictory session, as we will be announcing 3 best paper awards and the best poster which is designed by the students. See you all in the valedictory session. Join us at sharp 4:30 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.